Hello, good evening, welcome. Right, you need to show over a bit. We didn't get a chance. Hello, sorry, we're a bit rushed this evening. Oh, quick, we've got comments.
Oh, good Lord, who's here?
Oh, Marion's made it. She's made it. She was driving home from Derby from Dog Show.
Oh, right, okay.
She did really well. Poppy got a second, I believe. She's really good.
Excellent.
Denise is here. Yes, we are melting in the heat. I'm truly British. It's too hot.
It is way too hot.
It's too hot. I mean, I don't mind the heat, but not this. In true British style, it's either too hot, too cold, too wet, too windy. And all in one day sometimes. Good evening, Mickey. Should we give a quick shout out to Mickey? The fact that his video last week where he joined us, we had over 113 views.
Did we?
On
Excellent.
that video. So to us, that's the equivalent of a video going viral.
Indeed it is.
So yeah, I hope you guys are well. You're melting in the heat. So.
It is too hot. It's too hot for coffee.
Oh no. It's never too hot for coffee.
And so I've bought my skull.
Cool if it was a real skull.
Right, I'm drinking blood out of it, so.
You've just said that out loud to people online. You didn't mean to tell people we drink blood
Oh,
in the house.
Oops.
Oh yeah, happy anniversary for Mickey. Yes, it is. We were together. It was Friday was the official day, I think, wasn't it? So yeah, 3 years. So yeah, all those people that said, "Ooh, it won't last."
It won't last 6 months. Yeah.
Balls to you. We're
only staying together just to annoy them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all it is now. It's just a facade.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. Nobody could put up with my crap just as a facade. That's never going to work.
It's called medication.
So yeah, what are we going to talk about tonight then, Penny?
Well, we've been out and about today.
We have.
We went on an adventure.
Yeah.
That didn't quite pan out the way we wanted it to, but we're going to try some other things instead. And we ended up having a lovely pub lunch.
Yeah. So yeah, our plan was we went to a place called
Faxton.
I wanted you to say it just in case I said it wrong. Which is a site of an old village that no longer exists. And Penny's been down this kind of rabbit hole of looking at all these places that no longer exist for one reason or another. Some claim it was
lost medieval villages around Northamptonshire. There's about 82 that were little hamlets or thriving villages that no longer exist.
Mm.
And it's shocking how many. Just in Northamptonshire alone, that's just 82 locally that have either been swallowed up by neighbouring villages as they've grown, or because there were no roads that went to them.
Yeah, they were quite remote. The one we went to today was a remote location.
It was a remote. We trekked miles across fields. Yeah, or because they were remote and people obviously couldn't earn enough from the land and couldn't get to work, they moved. So they're abandoned. Or everybody died from the Black Death.
Dun, dun, dun.
Which was very lovely. And we did hear of a couple. We're not going to release the names of the others that we're going to go and look at that are reportedly haunted.
Mm.
But the one today was remote.
Yeah, we didn't actually find, because you couldn't actually get to it without technically trespassing, and I wasn't in that kind of mood today.
I wasn't in the mood to trespass, and we followed the byways, so we did a bit of rambling today.
Inadvertently stumbled across a gun dog competition.
Well, we did wonder what the shooting sounds were.
Yeah.
We're a little bit worried about if people had spotted us tramping around the field and we're going to scare us off their land. But it wasn't. It was a gun dog trial.
The golden rule whenever it comes to gunshots, if you heard it, it wasn't meant for you. So that's the easiest way to know.
But I wanted to find Faxton today because it was a village that was called Fakir Tun, The first part coming
I'll be interested to see what the subtitles come up for.
from from Danish, and the second part coming from Anglo-Saxon. But we didn't find it.
Well, that's the thing, because
Most of it isn't there now. We found out that it's a geocache location as well, but there was some trespassing that had to happen to get to the last bit.
Or at least we believe there was. We were Googling Earth in it and wandering around. We ended up walking up somebody's driveway and then having to walk back again.
Where there was lots of signs that said private land and
yeah, so it gets a bit confusing.
So we didn't feel like going on an adventure that much. So we went for a lovely pub lunch instead.
Yeah, we did. Went to the, what was it called? The
Duke's Arms in Woodford.
Yeah, in Woodford. That was nice.
And left just as the entertainment was about to start.
Yeah, my eyes were bigger than my belly. I ordered too much food, couldn't eat it all. Then I got depressed.
Oh no, my belly was bigger than my eyes. I just kept eating.
Then they brought me a fruit crumble with custard, and that was delish.
And I sat like a child and ate a giant knickerbocker glory.
You did, yeah.
Every bit.
Amazing.
So yeah, it will happen that we will find some of these villages. Hopefully ones with derelict buildings. We found a couple of churches.
Mm-hmm.
It's just finding time to go and get a good nose round. But when we do, we shall share it with you all.
But this is kind of, I mean, we were looking at these before last week's
amazing interview with
Nikki, with the superstar. It is not just houses and buildings that are haunted or items that are haunted. Areas can hold significant spiritual energy for whatever reason, whether it's a significant event or it can be to do with ley lines. There's always, because I've seen a post, somebody asked the question on one of these spooky sites I'm on, do you know of any beaches that are haunted?
Well, I imagine around Beachy Head's probably got a few souls wandering.
That was the general flavour of the conversation on the thread was, because we've had significant events happen at sea.
Yeah.
So do those spirits lost at sea, do they make their way to shore? So you've got passing energy.
Home?
Yeah. And I did.
I genuinely don't know.
No, and I never really thought about it. As a kid, used to cycle around sort of derelict buildings in Scotland and old farmsteadings and what they call castles. They're not castles, they're just big houses. And reading the energy on those, but I never went to actual locations. Just
to veer very slightly from that, but about a spirit coming home, I had a friend whose dad was in good health many years ago. I think I was probably about 18 at the time. His dad was in really good health and he set off to work and said goodbye and I love you to her mum, and off he trotted to work. And then about 2 hours later, she had the back door open and shut.
Okay.
And then a bit of commotion. So she went into the kitchen to see her husband standing there. And she was, oh, that's a bit odd. I thought you'd gone to work. And he just looked at her and she went, what are you like? You put kettle on, and went about her business. When she went back in the kitchen, he wasn't there. She got a phone call an hour later to say that he never actually made it to work.
Oh.
He, I think he had a massive heart attack on the way to work and just dropped down dead. It was one of them horrible, horrible heart attacks that just takes you.
Oh no, I think that's a good way of going.
It is, because it's quick.
Sorry, morbid.
But he clearly had gone home.
Yeah, to see his missus.
To say,
I'm free. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm off now. Don't cook me any dinner.
Got to put the bins out yourself.
How bizarre is that? That was quite a weird one. But no, you're right. In land hauntings, because people think people are haunted or buildings are, but not necessarily. When we went to Lebanon, there was no R in it, Lebanon, And we were in the graveyard because it's attached to a church.
Yep.
In the graveyard. Actually, it wasn't spirits of the graveyard that I could see. I could see village life. It was like the newer buildings were stripped away. And quite a lot of the land was empty, but you could see like the older buildings weren't the ones that were there at that time.
Yeah, the previous.
And I could see people wandering about, and people with a hand cart, and so yeah, that was the land I saw, and that's what I was hoping for if we went to one of those villages, because some of them did have horrendous backstories. One that we've been researching was invaded.
Oh yeah.
It was first invaded by the Anglo-Saxons making their way up north, and then by the Danes, and then by more Anglo-Saxons, and then by somebody else. And it was like, at what point do you go, do you know what, is there a good place to live?
Well, that's the thing. That's what I was going to say earlier. Northampton, the closest border areas of Northampton, Leicestershire and Nottinghamshire up to Yorkshire would have been battered all through the medieval stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Your main infrastructures were either in Edinburgh, York or London. Although there was a bit in Leicester before all the Leicester people jump on this. So it doesn't surprise me that somewhere like Northamptonshire had pockets of villages that started because Danes or Vikings or whoever landed, took over that land because they wanted to farm it. Then farming becomes less of the trend. It becomes about trade.
Yes.
And
there
goods.
Was villages that were bought up by the manor that bought up all the land around
so
them
the
and
crofters
turned it into
ended up
parkland.
everything's all the big smoke. Everything become industrial at that point. People stopped doing that and going into cities and living in one bed.
Places where there's been significant injury or a high death toll or a traumatic incident, you're definitely going to pick up energy from there.
Is it going to take the land?
That's what
things
I
grow
was
differently.
Intrigued whether we were going to interact with any of that today, but mainly we interacted with sheep.
Well, we did, but while we were stood at that bit of field, did you notice the trees that were along that edge between us and the posh house? The shape of them and the way their roots were formed. You could see that there was a stream must have been through there at some point.
Yeah.
And as you stand there, you kind of imagined there were like perfect branches for rope and things to be hanging off. And I never know whether it's my imagination or residual kind of energy, but you could sort of get the idea of people mucking about on there, kids on swings across a little stream, because it wouldn't have been overly big.
I mean, if you're going to do an investigation somewhere like that, you want to get proper full on. I want a helicopter, geophys of the land.
Well, that is, to be fair, at one point we stood there and I was like, this is why I want to buy a drone.
Yeah.
Because where we stood, where we parked the car, we could just send that straight up and have a nosy. Then we're not trespassing unless there's the airplane thingy box nearby or pylons.
Or property. Personal property.
Yeah, but that area we could have just picked over and come back.
I mean, what are your thoughts? Pop a message in the comments. Do you think that energy resides in land? So if there was a village and it is no more, and it was taken over by the Black Death, because there was telling of one story that a family moved down from London to live in one of these villages to escape the Black Death. Unfortunately, one of the servants they brought with them brought Black Death with them and killed a number of people. It's a little bit Typhoid Mary-esque. But do you think that that kind of energy stays within the land?
Yeah, I do. I think it changes the way things grow there. But whether it stays forever, I have a different thing.
Oh, I don't think it stays forever. I think it fades.
Once it gets replenished by the energy around it at that point, it's not going to hold on to old energy. It's not like a human being not moving forward and letting go of the past. the energy in there has to. So it has to push out whatever it is. And that's the bit I hope to catch when you're ever in an old building doing psychometry, is that you get a burst of something, like it's like an energy discharge from a rock battery. I kind of forgot you guys were there for a second then. Did that make sense? It's hard to explain.
You definitely get it from
Imagine if
buildings because the energy is encased within, and it's like it's absorbed into the walls.
Yeah, imagine it like a hard drive. As you put more stuff in, once it's full, it just automatically deletes the old files.
And they fade with it's like a memory fading and a photograph fading.
Yeah.
Over time, their imprint isn't as strong and it is replaced.
And I think
that's overwritten.
Yeah. And I
it's
think
still there a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, shut up now.
No. I think that's why 20 years ago people went on a ghost hunt, 50 years ago people went on a ghost hunt at particular locations and picked stuff up. But now
when you go,
you don't, because the ghost hunters themselves have transferred their energy in and pushed energy out.
Possibly.
Is kind of, in theory, how it works in my head.
So it's like layers and layers and layers. And if there isn't a significant trauma that forces an energy to stay strong, then it will just disappear within the layers, for sure.
It fades like ink on pages. And that's the kind of logic. So it's a bit of a, what's the word, an anti thing. So in theory, the less people there is on a ghost hunt to transfer the energy over. But I'm not saying that this is true. And what I'm saying is this is my sort of logic.
Yes, but no. Yeah, but no, but.
Yeah, but no, I don't know how. I don't know how much energy a granite block can hold in a castle. So you've got 1 million hard drives building up a castle, holding up energy, historic energy. But once it's full, every significant interaction that puts energy into it has to make way. Something has to go out the other side of it.
I agree with that. I do think as well that you do need people to bring energy in. To create
that's for
a medium of communication.
Yeah, but that's for an entity, not residual energy.
No, okay.
So that's a free thinking spirit.
Yeah.
Right, let's jump to the comments. If you're joining us for the first time as well, hi, where have you been? We're the Wiccan Warriors, Alistair and Penny, and we generally come on and talk something spooky, spiritual, paranormal, things to do with Reiki, meditation, life coaching, shamanism,
mystical, magical,
tarot, and all that sort of stuff.
A little bit of everything.
We're here every Sunday. There's our new jingle.
Please don't do that ever again. Let's go to some comments.
So first, before we do the comments, I'm not reading all these comments out. Come on, we've only got Denise that's showed us some love so far.
Just Denise.
Whatever platform you're looking
Thank
at
you,
us on,
Denise.
a share means the world. A like and a love is also amazing. Right. Marion has come in with, yes, definitely, all the people that lived in those places must leave their energy behind. Yeah, I absolutely think so.
And I think those places in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the fields, where you haven't got people tramping through, when you do take your energy there, you become the antenna for that, and that will pull
that's how I feel.
Towards you, if that makes any sense. I think, hence why I was excited about today.
These, I would think the land holds the memories and the past so that they'd be tapped into. Yeah, think of memories as energy. Yeah.
Do you know what would be really good in those locations, Mickey? Dowsing rods.
Mickey's got a question for you.
Okay.
Why hasn't a ghost or spirit of a dinosaur ever been seen?
Now, how do we know that it hasn't? Because what we've just been talking about is layers of energy replacing or sitting on top of layers of energy. So the older the energy is, the lower it is in the pile, if you like, the more suppressed it is. So over time, you are less likely to see something at the bottom of the pile, more likely to see something at the top. because they could have been. They could have absolutely have been ghost dinosaurs wandering about, but people would have been terrified of them and gone, oh, what is that? Oh, it's the abominable snowman. Oh, it's the Loch Ness monster. Maybe that's where those stories came from.
I have another answer.
Oh, right.
Slightly more simple.
Is it there was no such thing as dinosaurs?
No, that's a slightly more long-winded one about them being placed there by aliens just to throw us off. No, I personally think it's the same reason you don't see the ghosts of all the snakes that have lived in the world, all the lions that have lived in the world, all the kangaroos that have lived in the world. We don't see ghost animals because there's no emotional connection to a person for that to be drawn to, if you get my logic. You can see ghost pets because there's an emotional connection there. There's a reason for them to stay this side. But a dinosaur is going to cross over and just pass to the next, wherever its energy is going.
Really good premise. I like that. There's also to be considered the Buddhist line of and the Hindu line of reincarnation. The lower form animals are people that have passed that have to learn a particular lesson, and becoming one of the lower form animals is part of that. So their spirit doesn't remain because it was essentially a human spirit that has then ascended to another plane or another animal entity. So the actual creature didn't have its own specific. That is actually
okay. So the energy evolved as the goop that covers it evolved with it, from fish to flapping fish on the sand to dinosaur to chickens.
Stop it now. You're going to upset the creationists.
So that's two different bits of logic. I've always gone with the one that there's never been an emotional connection for anybody, which is why you don't just see random ghost animals. They, like Penny said, they've done whatever bit they've done and they move on to the next thing.
I have seen ghost dogs, ghost horses.
That's why I said if there's an emotional connection to a human, or a particular, because Greyfriars Bobby, that's a classic story of a dog living with an attachment to a human. So you've got to kind of think animal, pet. There's a massive difference in their energy, their emotions, or their chemical makeup, everything.
I connected with a lord at the church restaurant in Northampton. I don't know if Mickey remembers this. And a horse just wandered through, which kind of threw me. And I kind of went, oh, sorry. Anybody else noticed the horse? And he was a race horse trainer or something.
So Mickey's saying, the energy dissipates. Potentially, yes.
I think, to be fair, none of us really know the answers. We can all work on information that we've been given.
I'll tell you the easiest way we can find out.
What, are we going to kill something?
No, the easiest way we could find out is if anybody knows of a location that we can get to that we know primeval man stayed in. If we could had access to a cave with cave drawings and all the rest of it, I could sit in the cave and then decide whether or not I can pick up on energy that old.
It depends if that energy has dissipated from people going in.
Yeah, so it's a paranormal experiment I'd like to do. So
it needs to be a cave that very few people have ever entered after the drawings have been done.
Yeah, if I can pick up on energy of primitive man, or in theory that sort of feeling, do you know what I mean? I don't know what that would feel like. So it would be a new one. So I'd be picking up on brand new energy there.
Okay, so moving away from that, because we're looking at
because if you ever notice, based on this same thing though, most of the energy we ever pick up is from about the 1910, 18 to 19. Victorian, medieval sometimes.
Yeah, medieval sometimes for sure.
But not so much
prior
medieval.
To that, a bit less, yeah.
Maybe we're answering how long residual energy lasts without even realising it.
Yeah, we're working on an average.
That couple of
that
hundred
doesn't
years.
say it definitely, you're not going to sense anything prior to that. What you're working on an average of that time period of, that is how far it goes back. Potentially, we don't know. We're not geniuses.
Mickey, that's a great way to look at it. Alistair, he liked my idea more than yours. No. I felt like such a
It's
child.
just like the bro code. You will only agree with anything that he says.
Well, apparently there's dinosaurs at the
But
country park.
that is true. Urchester Country Park, that is absolutely true. However, how many people tramp through there?
Yeah.
And have tramped through there
It was a
over
quarry
the
at one
years.
point.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of new energy that has replaced.
But yeah, that is a really good question. It's one I've not thought about for years, and that's, like I said, that's when I came up with that sort of logic.
Okay, so sticking with that, and you saying you can, if you could connect with who?
Who?
Exactly. The primeval man.
Oh yeah.
So primordial.
Yeah.
Proper going back caveman, whose language wouldn't have formed because there wasn't the travelling. There was no nomadic races. Everybody just stayed where they were.
Until Adam and Eve come along.
So, stop it now. You're just mixing up the stories. It's getting very confusing. The language or the communication would have been completely different. How would you communicate? Now, here's the thing. When people have said to me before, how do you know what people are saying? If they're speaking in a different language, I think somebody who was Ukrainian said, but my grandmother only spoke, I think she called her a bubby, only spoke Ukrainian. So how do you know what she's saying? And it's really weird. It's like they will talk so that you can recognize the language, or you will be given the information of what the language is. And then it's a real quick automatic request of help me to understand, and then it's translated. So they speak in their language, but we hear in English. We respond in English, they hear it in their language.
Yeah.
It's like
a Babel fish.
A Babel fish. Or being connected to the TARDIS.
Extra points for anybody who puts in their comments where a Babel fish is from.
It's usually me that says Babel fish.
Oh, okay. Well, I wanted to say Babel fish. It's a cool word.
Or connection to the TARDIS, who automatically translates whatever they hear for the Doctor Who nerds.
That's true. Right, we'll come back on to ghosts and sensing the paranormal. I want us to go off on a little bit of a tangent now.
Oh, God.
For anybody out there who's thinking...
Will we lose viewers?
No. We're still on topic, I promise. Promise, stay with me. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned, even though you didn't tune in, you clicked.
Waffling.
How
Now.
do you...
Well done, Chris Evans. He's first.
He is. Excellent. Well done, Chris.
Thank you, lovely Mr. Evans. And you looked gorgeous dressed up.
Oh, yeah,
I
the
have
Rocky
to
Horror.
say, it was quite creepy how much like Tim Curry looked.
I couldn't unsee that. Thank you for that.
That was more of you than I expected. Having seen prior photos of you dressed up for the Rocky Horror, you looked very different. I was impressed. You made me feel really masculine in comparison. Yeah. Anywho.
Denise said it's like a cosmic Google Translate.
It is.
Chris, nice and confident. I am gorgeous.
You are gorgeous. Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Right. My question was going to be this. When we go to a location and we're feeling for the energy, I said it earlier, sometimes it's difficult to know whether it's my imagination creating pictures and stories about the location. Yeah, looking at it and going, oh, I would build a swing from there, and oh yeah, you can see. So it's not all about
what you've been fed by TV and media over the years. Yeah,
the image of what I'm pulling. What I like is when I get to a location and it throws me a curveball, I feel something different. But how do we know the difference between a push and a thought? I'm going to let you answer that question first. I hope you guys know what I mean by that. A thought is obviously generated by us. A push is information, emotion, a thought, an image pushed by spirit or energy of a location.
I wouldn't say that I would necessarily know the difference, but what I would do is test the information. So I would say, show me more.
Okay.
or explain more, or
So you're already externalizing where that information is coming from by the nature of your question.
yes.
Right. Okay. So you've immediately categorized it as a push. Because if it was a thought, you wouldn't have had to have externalized the question.
If I don't get any other
Did I keep everybody there or did I lose everybody?
no. If I don't get any feedback, then I don't see it as any kind of validation that whether that was me conjuring that image, because it felt like there should be a swing over a brook from that tree branch. If I've got nothing to validate it, then I won't progress with that. I'll move on to something else because I can't validate whether that's a real thing that happened or something I saw on Little House on the Prairie.
Fair enough.
For want of a better way of putting it.
And that the reason I ask that is because that can be the crux of everything we do. In standing in any location to do a ghost hunt style, so trying to interact with spirits or an entity that understands, it's self-aware to an extent, as opposed to the residual energy of an area. The best way I figured to describe it is the residual energy of an area is like reading a book. Dealing with an actual live spirit or energy or entity, or like the other day when we went and did that reading, and I was sat there, and the two people that entered, I don't think they actually had anything to do with the two people that were there. And at this stage, I don't know if they've still tagged to me and they're going to want something at a later date.
They just saw you as an open door.
Do you know what I mean? Or I was picking up on something to do with the house, residual playback, because once it had done that, there was nothing else to it. So sometimes it can be quite tricky in an area, in a house. So I'll get an idea or a feeling that two people have walked in, but then nothing happens after that. So that could then be categorized as a psychometry moment. I've picked up on a moment where two people walked into that area for whatever reason, jovially, or there was a lot of energy involved in it.
And there's the other aspect of it, of they might not be at all connected with that area or those people, and they saw an open door, an open connection that you had created by opening yourself up, and they thought, I just want to watch.
Yeah.
I just want to see, is this something that I can use for a connection? Because that does happen. And sometimes you do have to say, I'm really sorry, I can't help you. Can you step back?
Well, I normally
looking for a connection to this person. If I'm able to help you, I will. But right now, I'm looking for a connection to this person.
Yeah, I tend to go, whoever it is you want to talk to, you need to put them on Google, go Wiccan Warriors, drop us an email, and then we can contact them, and they'll get it as like a spur of the moment. I had this thought to contact you. If they push that to them, then they can contact us. So kind of do it as like leave a message after the tone, get your living person to give us a call.
Okay.
No, I'm joking. If you can help, you help with whatever it is.
And it's quite difficult to pick through who are you here for, because you do have to ask questions that do seem like they do seem like you're asking too much, you're trying to get too much information, but what you're trying to do is validate whether there is a connection and whether it is worth progressing with that line of inquiry because they are connected, or whether you need to let it go to deal with at another time to move forward. I think that makes our job quite hard.
Yeah.
As well. That's when you're doing readings, when you're going out and doing investigations, you are open to whoever comes through. And
they're my favourite.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Walking around somewhere like, I don't know, like Hellfire Caves or Broughton Cemetery, things like that, and then opening up as like an antenna and just going, okay, hello to all, come and have a chat.
Here's an interesting one. It was a building that I'd never been to before. It was another one actually that Nikki might remember. It was a long time ago. It was a place of business that somebody owned in Silverstone. And everybody got there before me because I was still at work till, I think I was at work till 10 o'clock. So everybody got there first and then I turned up later. And so they'd done a walkthrough and had a chat and and done some of the researchy stuff. And then when I got there, lovely Vicky, who was with us, was told not to tell me anything at all, which is my preference anyway, but just to walk me around the building until we got to where everybody else was. So we went into the building and I said a couple of things, and then all of a sudden
Is our bedroom door open? I swear I've just heard the cat.
I just heard a third. Do you want to go and have a...
No.
Okay, he's probably just gone on the roof again. Or something's fell over.
Yeah.
Because I pulled the blind. Anyway, so I walked in and then had a really random moment of feeling like something dropped in front of me, like something was thrown down a hole above. So I obviously told Vicky that. She wasn't allowed to validate anything that I said, just to remember any information. So we went around the building and there was a few other things, but that something falling through the ceiling didn't make any sense at all. And when we went back to the group and we spoke to the chap who owned the building, he went, absolutely, yeah, there was a big hole there and they used to throw whatever it was they made, I think it was fabric, they used to throw the bundles down through that hole. And it was how bizarre, because if you look in that building, there's nothing that would have given you that impression at all. It was quite bizarre. But yeah, that showed me the energy that was, the movement had stored an energy within the building. Because obviously you don't want to be underneath that when something heavy is thrown through it.
No, but I think that's you picking up on the flow of energy through a house, through a building.
Through a building.
You can tell when you walk into a house, not only is it designed for a particular way, but you can feel the flow. If like old buildings have had doors moved, you can feel that the energy's flow is different. So,
and that is the only place where I had a moment where I felt out of control, and I've never had it since, and I've been very careful to guard myself since, where I felt an energy stepped into me and spoke through me, and it freaked me out quite a lot, and I haven't done it, I haven't allowed it to happen since. In that we all stood in the dark in a completely different part of the building, which was a warehouse, and we all stood in random places, and I'd already picked up on a really negative male energy that was terrorising certainly the women within the building, and I felt him, for want of a better word, enter. And then I remember feeling like I was watching it happen, and it was really quick, and turning to the person that was next to me and just going, who's Andrew? And his name was Andy, the person that I was talking to, and he went, me? And he was quite unnerved by it, but not as unnerved as I was, and I kind of had to do a mental push to stop that, and I've been very careful not to do that since, because it's not something I'm comfortable with.
I think that'd be amazing.
A form of there's different kinds of trance mediumship, and that was something that I didn't feel like I had any control over, so didn't want to engage with that any further. It kind of freaked me out, and it was the weirdness of the tilt of the head, like, and said in a way that was intended to freak him out, like he was watching him and he knew who he was, and it was like there is no way he would know who he was, so that's quite a weird thing to do. But yeah, I don't know if Mickey remembers that at all, because he's been on a million investigations and hunts since. But yeah, there's a few things like that have stuck with me, but that was a strong energy that had stayed within the building. So there was the elements of residual energy, the flow of the building, and where things were, and there was a person, an entity energy that was within the building.
Excellent.
No, we can't go there.
No, I did have a question, and then I clicked that on there and then I've forgotten. Mickey has just come up with. Where was that?
The original team. It was. Stop mimicking his photo. It was the original Spirit Seekers, and it was Keith.
Ouch.
Keith's workplace in Silverstone, and if you remember, it was the middle of bloody nowhere, and it was a really old building, but it was mainly offices. And when we went into the offices, we had some weird stuff happen, and I've got to be honest, going anywhere near one of the staircases, you had to go up or down a staircase to get to the loo. There was really dodgy energy there, and then all of a sudden it went really flat and you couldn't feel any energy whatsoever. Do you remember it? Yes.
Yes, the factory.
Yes. So yeah, that was a weird one.
It
was that weird. I went home and drew a picture of something that I'd seen during that.
Was it loads of black circles?
No,
demonized?
It wasn't. It was a woman that clearly had worked there that was hiding, and I just saw her look around the doorway, but she looked terrified of that man, and you could feel his energy all over the building.
Yeah, I remember the staircase was very narrow.
Oh, human pendulum, don't even. Such a fake thing. So the human pendulum, for anybody that doesn't know, is something that I definitely don't agree with. If you're talking about things that can be manipulated, a person definitely can. So you all stand around and you close your eyes, and obviously you sway because you've got your eyes closed. Everybody does it. Your balance goes off. And then somebody calls out and says, if there's anybody here, can you affect somebody near you, which is what you do anyway. And then we had a member of the team who immediately, Mickey's remembering it as clearly as I did, who immediately would go like this with her arm. And it was like, oh, she's affected again. The only person that ever was wherever we went. And it was, do you want to be part of the human pendulum? No, you're all right. No.
Okay, right. So last week we spoke to Mickey about what he would take on a ghost hunt.
Yes.
His equipment. And he went through some fandangled, really expensive thing, I think, which was like a laser net, like a tree.
Like
I want to be
sway
a tree.
like a tree.
Yeah, so Mickey had all this expensive sort of kit. What do we take when we do a ghost hunt?
Well, I take my rods because where I can't get a clear verbal connection, because sometimes it takes a while to build that connection, that gives me a quicker link into them to give me the yes and no's.
Yeah.
So we take that.
Yeah, I tend to walk around with crystals.
And every now and again we take the EMF meter, but other than that we just take ourselves as human pendulums.
One swear.
Only not. Because if it's just us, we're relying on our spirit connections that we have, which is good enough, I think. Sometimes people, when you need to provide evidence, just having us, I get, isn't enough. People need more. They can't hear or see what we hear and see, or feel. And they need more evidence, hence the rise of things like Alice boxes and things like that. People need the visuals. So like you were saying about the laser nets, I hate those. I've never ever seen them work anywhere. The theory being that the net, you would see something move through the net.
Oh yeah, no,
I've never ever seen anything.
I can see the
that.
logic in it, but I can also see from my perspective where the frequency of the energy in the laser has got to match the frequency. If not, it's got to be slightly different so it bounces or refracts with the energy it's doing. Everything is energy. Light is energy. Sound is energy. Everything will interact with something in some way.
Yeah.
My voice is vibrating a little piece of metal here, which is
Yeah.
turning into words for you guys.
Yeah.
So those vibrations are what I pick up on.
Okay.
Because I can tune into that frequency, or I'm aware of that frequency.
Yeah.
Somebody's setting up a laser net. It's a nice, pretty light color, or it's a very.
It builds tension. It builds tension for the audience because they're watching and they're staring at it. And to be fair, if you stare at something that's lit up long enough, you're going to see something, even if there isn't something there. And then you get one person say, yes, I've seen something. Did you see it? And then it feeds mass hysteria and everybody joins it. Oh, I saw it. Did you? Where did you see it? Yeah, I thought I saw something there as well. And
it wasn't a laser net that Mickey wanted. It was an electromagnetic grid. That's what it was. It was an electromagnetic cage, is what he said. I've just remembered.
Oh no, he wants Faraday cage.
Yeah, because of the frequency logic, and that's when I said,
oh, that makes sense.
You could potentially open a portal if you managed to match the frequencies correctly. You could, in theory, make a portal through. So yeah, it wasn't a laser net, because, like Mickey's just said there, he's never seen anything on one either.
No, just excited cats.
So my next question. I grew up.
I know what other thing winds you up. Sorry, it's just this chair's really uncomfortable and yours is lovely and padded.
It's still not very comfortable.
REM pods wind you up.
Yeah, can't stand the fucking noise.
They do.
It sounds like
give really good indications, but you don't necessarily. You need the noise of something that is an energy that is moving near it. The theory is that it is set off by the energy that passes by it. So
an electromagnetic
nothing is
field
nearby emitting physical energy. Something moving past it is an indication. So if it makes a noise.
Are you talking to me like I'm 10?
No, I'm talking to myself. I'm kind of working it out in my own head. So if it makes a noise, that works in a completely dark room where you can't see anything and you need something to tell you. But I just had a memory of something else, Mickey, or somewhere else we went. When we went Drakelow Tunnels, having a conversation with the workman's lamp that was on a cone. We'd been all around and we walked away, and then there was one of them yellow lights that they sit on top of traffic cones. At the other end of the, I want to say corridor, I don't know what that is, it was the other end of the tunnel, where there was nobody else because there was only us in that bit, and the light flashed in response to yes and no questions. Don't know if you remember that, but I remember that quite freaked me out because I thought, I haven't actually picked up a lot down here. I think
Mickey remembers.
Yeah, I don't, stop it. I don't particularly like Drakelow Tunnels. I don't get a lot there. I don't think there's a lot of energy there. I don't think there's a lot that's gone wrong there that would keep energy within it. But I thought that was quite interesting.
Mickey's put another comment. REM pods hardly ever go off. Its own EMF field is broken. Spirit energy said to be set off. And yeah.
Hence, we don't do technical stuff because we don't remember all the ins and outs of it. I only know the basics.
The dilemma I have is you have science and then you have paranormal. So anything that's being described as far as science is concerned, so a REM pod, it shouldn't say in the terminology or the pamphlet triggered by energy passing by. It needs to say what is triggering that metal aerial sticking up.
You want it to be more
electromagnetic field. What frequency of electromagnetic fields is that picking up on?
Well, we don't know that the box doesn't say that because we haven't got one.
No, I know. That's what I'm wondering, is if it does detail that. So the science bit stays very sciencey and it works within these frequencies. Right, my next question. It's not off tangent, but slightly off tangent, because quite popular in the 1920s and 30s were seances.
Yes.
With mediums, and they would use things like spirit cabinets.
Yes.
Tables.
Yes.
And there is some pictures.
Fluorescent trumpets.
Yeah. Record players, barrel. There was all kinds of things that they used. Now I get that there was a lot of charlatans around at the time as well.
Absolutely was.
Who were quite ingenious with some of their primitive technology for making stuff move.
Houdini, quite a lot of them.
Yeah. But there was some pictures taken of ectoplasm.
Mhm.
Why have we never heard of ectoplasm since the 1920s? Since I've seen it in that Arthur C. Clarke book, I've never seen one other medium.
Because there are very few trance mediums that do that. And it was, I know that it was really strongly researched by the Psychical Institute, but there are trance mediumships a thing of the past. And the reason why it's a thing of the past is because it's quite a scary thing to do. There's two different kinds of trance. There's a trance where you are aware of what is happening and you will remember it all. And then there's the second aspect of it where you are physically overtaken and remember none of it whatsoever. And that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have no physical control. So over the years, people have moved away from focusing that ability. But I do know there was research by the Psychical Institute. I don't know the ins and outs of it. Many years ago, I used to subscribe to Psychic News, which I believe is
40 times.
Which I believe is still in publication. When I first got it, it actually was a newspaper.
To get delivered by an owl?
Over the year, no, unfortunately not. Down a chimney, no. But trance mediumship is a thing of the past, and certainly the production of ectoplasm was rare.
It wasn't real.
And that's the point, because it hasn't happened since. Who can prove whether that was real or not? Because nobody does it now.
There was a couple of things happening during the sort of 1910 to 1930, I think. The technology for things like circuses and travelling shows, the freak shows, the scare, people wanted that edge to things.
The Carnival.
Yeah. Oh, I love that series. If you've never watched the series Carnival, you need to watch it.
It is weird and quite rude.
It's brilliant. And
it's still quite weird and quite rude.
It's a bit Bible-y, but what was I saying? Tangented me there.
Freak shows.
Yeah, so during that period of time, people were intrigued by all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So seances were big business, and the technology they had to make tables move or candles fall over and all this sort of trickery that they did was quite ingenious. I think sort of tip my hat to that. But during the same period, photography was coming in.
Yeah.
And that's where they could manipulate.
Photography was already there, but it wasn't commonly used.
Yeah, to manipulate an image to
and
trick somebody.
Because of the developing of the film was paid for by the person that had hired the photographer, it was open to abuse.
Yeah. So,
and there's the mass hysteria. If one person says, "Did you see the smoke emanating from her? It was so thick, it must have been spiritual energy coming through." And because of the heightened emotions in that dark room and the desperation of people, they went, yeah.
Mm.
And then a little bit of trickery in the developing.
Well, that's what I think ectoplasm was. I don't think it was
I'm
real.
not going to give any opinion because I don't know enough about it.
I don't know enough about it, but I have enough, I think, common sense and spiritual awareness to know that I've never ever felt anything, unless that's what the catarrh is. It's in my throat constantly. Do a bit of spirit work. Or that could just be the smoking.
It could just be the smoking.
So yeah, no. And what about cabinets? The reason I say this is because traditionally
we were
people would say
do a cabinet.
they got a haunted house. They would get somebody around, but that in them days they wouldn't just do a walk around. They'd set a table up, and it would always be a séance. It was like you'd sit down and have like a big dial phone contact the spirit.
After dinner parties, it used to happen. And again, because
which you can do nowadays by booking us.
It is true. The problem is that
shameless plug.
There were so many charlatans, it pushed the professionals underground.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody got tarred with the same brush. Everybody did. And because of that, those kind of things stopped happening. And I'll reference the one that I did with UK Haunted for really, discovery. It wasn't ever going to work well. And all the people that said, there's nothing happening, or why are they not doing this and why are they not doing that? Well, because we had so many restrictions put on us because of COVID. We couldn't sit next to each other. We couldn't hold hands. We weren't allowed to move around the building. We couldn't turn the lights off and sit in the dark because nobody watching at home would have seen anything. There was an element
Maybe
of,
that's what we need to do on
we
our podcast.
do need to fill the time, because people are not going to tune in to see a black screen because all the lights are off and only hear the occasional calling out. There had to be an element of, we need to have the lights on, we need to explain stuff, talk to stuff. And we had two very nervous girls with us that needed putting at ease as well. And there were some cool things that happened, but in the main, we weren't allowed to leave the room. There was tons of stuff happening in other parts of the building. Absolutely tons. I picked up a ridiculous amount in the towery bit. And then when the curator gave me and Nick, actually, Nick Stepani, we had a walkthrough underneath and round the gardens. There was so much activity there. But we couldn't show you any of that because we had to film in one room.
I know, it would be cool to go back there.
Well, he did say if I ever wanted to go back, just let him know and he'd let me go and have a proper walk round because I picked up so much, just not in the room we were in. And that's the thing about seances, because you can absolutely sit there for 3 hours and call out and nothing happen. And people want their money's worth. People want something to happen, and it's really hard when you're a professional and you're honest and you know nothing's happening and there is no energy in this room, nobody is coming through, we're just going to sit here for 3 hours. That's quite a hard thing. And
it is, but it's the reason I mentioned about seances is because you have to know how to approach the house or the building or the area that you want to kind of read. If you're approaching it from a residual energy point of view, then a Ouija board's pointless.
I think they're pointless anyway.
Because you're dealing with energy. If you're dealing with an entity, something free-thinking formed of energy, then fine, a Ouija board might work because it can influence that. But my metaphor earlier about reading a book of a building is very different. It's flat, linear, it's fixed, it's already happened. Reading and talking to spirit is ever changing because that's an entity, it's energy in itself.
And it's
it can move.
The same with table tipping. I've been to places where I've thought you're going to be a bit dodgy, so I'm not going to engage in that in the slightest because I know that you're going to create a situation because people have paid to be it. So I don't engage with it. However, in the Feathers in Ludlow, I got thrown across the room. And I had a walking stick. There was no way I was going to be moving anywhere at speed, let alone be happy to fling myself across the room. I could barely walk. I was in so much pain. But that was table tipping. It was actually me and one other person, because everybody else broke away from the table. And we had a glass as well. And the glass was going crazy. And I had a massive connection going on, so there was a secondary thing that nobody else was privy to, a conversation that I was having separately, and the next thing I knew, I flew across the room, and I mean it was a big room, and was in quite a lot of pain afterwards. But are there people that would fake it? Yes, there are, because people pay to have an experience. They expect to get an experience and then get quite narky when you go, we have no control over the spirits. Well, if they don't want to talk to us, we can't force them.
Well, yeah, but some places are advertised as they talk about spirits when they should be talking about residual energy.
Yeah.
And that's a difference in logic. Do you understand what I mean?
I do. Yeah.
Oh, we've approached the hour. Time flies when you're having fun and talking
Oh, I
bollocks.
do apologise.
Oh, we've got a couple of comments from Denise. Denise would love to go on a paranormal investigation. Go on Facebook to Paracom. They advertise their own and they also advertise others.
I've been to absolutely amazing ones and really respectful teams.
Who was less educated and couldn't read or write? I've missed it.
For using the communication board.
Oh,
The theory is that when you use them, you explain and you point. If you want to say yes, you move to here. If you want to say no, you move to here. And again, that comes down to the ask for them to be assisted their side with the communication if they are unable to do it. But yeah, there are some really amazing teams. There's some really disreputable teams.
Yeah, same with everything.
If you go and lots happens and it's a continual roller coaster ride of mayhem, the likelihood of that being right
you had fun.
and real isn't great, but how much do you enjoy it?
Nobody wants to actually be held hostage and kept captive, but people keep doing escape rooms.
That is true. Some people do want that though.
But
that's a different kind of channel.
People want to be scared, but they want to be scared in a safe way on a roller coaster. It's not desired to be scared.
Yeah.
So it plays on that. I know that's fine. That's all right. Right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show.
I hope you learned a little bit.
Yeah. So I wanted to go back to. I think we said last week. Wanted to go back to our roots a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll figure out a topic for next week. But this week was about ghosts and residual energy and places and hauntings and things. And if you didn't catch last week's show with Mickey, go and watch it. If you didn't catch the week before with Jess, the doula, which was a really good show spiritually, one for the ladies, spiritual babies and birthing. And
it's not just for the ladies. Why do you have to put that voice on?
For the ladies. The ladies. Did you ladies things?
You're done now. It's all petticoats and puppies and babbling brooks.
Well, thank you. Have a good week. And you guys, let's hope it cools down a bit. It's giving me a headache today, I've got to be honest. It was too hot.
Yeah.
So.
And it's only going to get hotter, so please look after yourselves and hydrate.
Yeah. Drink water. Anything else to say?
No, say goodnight, Alistair.
That's not how this works. Ant and Dec have a way of working things. Don't mess it up. You'll cock up the algorithm.
Oh, sorry.
Right. Final note, if you haven't liked, shared or loved the video yet, please don't make us curse you. Do it now. Do it now, I tell you.
Yes.
Right. One final comment from Denise. She says, thank you very much. Have a good week, Denise.
Thank you for joining us.
Right clicky screen here. And yeah, say good night, Penny.
Good night, Penny.